Hi everyone, it's Tarrant.
And Stella here from Meeple University on the Dutch Tower. Thanks for joining us.
Today we'll be teaching you how to play Dinositters, game designed by Maxwell Freud and Joel Bodkin and published by Featherstone Games. We are using a prototype copy of the game here, so the rules and components may not be final.
Let's get to it.
In Dinositters, players are pairs of prehistoric siblings trying their best at babysitting a nest full of hatchlings. The aim is to generate the most happiness in the nest by keeping the hatchlings fed and well entertained by lining them up to play in different activities with their neighbours. When the night of babysitting is complete, the player whose nest has earned the most happiness points is the winner. To set up, give each player a nest board, 2 matching sibling markers, and a happiness marker, which is placed at 0. Deal each player a random hatchling card, which is placed face up anywhere on the player's nest board. Then feed that hatchling by placing a food token matching its favourite type of food onto the card, and this is the food icon showing in the bottom left corner of the card. Ignore this food icon in the bottom right for now, I'll explain that later. And if your starting hatchling has no favoured food, then swap it out for one that does. On the main board, deal the remaining hatchling cards into 9 face-down piles, and flip each top card face up. Place the food tokens into supply piles near the matching coloured spaces. These are considered limited components in the game. Once the supplies are empty, you won't be able to take them. And then shuffle up the deck of Volcano challenge cards, placing them here and flipping the top card into the discard pile. The eldest player plays first, and you're now ready to play. Dinositters is played in turns, starting from the first player and going clockwise around the table until the end of the game. On your turn, you will use one of your sibling minis to take one action. This can be by moving it from your player board to an open action location on the main board, or by moving it from a space on the main board to a different space on the main board. There are 21 action spaces on the board broken into 7 locations, which are indicated by colour. The Volcano and Tar Pits each have 2 spaces. The marsh, boneyard, pools and forest have only 1 action space in a 2 or 3 player game, or 2 action spaces at 4 or more. And the nursery has 9 action spaces, with each of these piles representing its own space. You are never allowed to make a placement which results in both of your siblings being in the same location. All 3 of these are not allowed. But when making a movement, you are allowed to move from one space in the same location to another. So now let's have a look at how all the different actions work. The nursery allows you to gain new hatchlings. To take the action, take the top hatchling from a pile and place your sibling mini on top of the pile. Then place your new hatchling onto an empty space on your player board and score points as appropriate. There are 2 types of hatchlings. Regular hatchlings show a favoured food type in the bottom left corner, and pipped hatchlings do not. Regular hatchlings must be placed upright, that is, in the vertical orientation with its text in the right direction. Pipped hatchlings may be placed in any orientation, but there are otherwise no restrictions for either type of placement. Anytime you place a hatchling, this may result in you scoring happiness points, and the primary way of doing this is by making activity matches, which is where the 2 symbols on the sides of cards are joined up together. This, for example, was 3 activity matches. When you make matches, you'll score for the number of matches you make and for any fed hatchlings within those matches. First, score number of matches. A single match scores 1 point, 2 matches scores 3 points, 3 matches scores 6 points, and 4 matches scores 12. Then score for fed hatchlings. If a hatchling is in the new activity match and has been fed with its favourite food, then return that food token to the supply and gain 2 bonus points. This placement here would have been worth 3 points for making 2 matches, plus 2 for each of these fed hatchlings for a total of 7. After your nursery action, the sibling remains on the pile in the nursery until you move it away to a different location on a subsequent turn. Once this happens, you flip the top card over and it becomes available for other players. The next 4 locations are the marsh, the boneyard, the pools and the forest, and they all work in much the same way. When you send your sibling there, you take one of the matching foods from the supply and give it to one of your hatchlings. If the supply is empty, you get nothing. Placing food on a hatchling can be done in one of 2 ways, either by feeding or bribing. When you feed, you place it on the bottom left matching icon of a hatchling who's not already fed. We've already seen the outcome of this. When you later make an activity match with that hatchling, you'll be able to eat that and score 2 bonus happiness. But it must be on a future match. There is no immediate benefit from doing this. The other option is to bribe one of your hatchlings. And to do this, take any food token and place it onto an empty bribe slot, which is the empty box showing in the bottom right corner of a hatchling. And do note that in this prototype, each bribe box shows one of the specific food types, but in the final version, this will be an empty box. You can put any food on a bribe box. Having bribed a hatchling, you may now move it to a different empty space in your nest, or swap its position with that of another hatchling in your nest. You now score any new activity matches that you've made in the same way we described before. Be reminded that favoured food tokens and bribed food tokens are treated differently. Favoured food tokens are returned to the supply for bonus happiness when you make an activity match. Bribed food is not and remains on that hatchling permanently. The next location is the tar pit, and this gives you 2 other ways of managing your resources. At the cliffs, you can make an exchange. Remove a favourite food token from one of your hatchlings and throw it into the tar, which is kept separate from the supplies. Then, one at a time, take 2 food tokens from their relevant supplies, and this can include the same food token you threw into the tar, and then feed or bribe with them in the usual way. At the tar, gain 1 food token that has previously been thrown into the tar, and again add it to your board in the usual way. This could be your only way to get resources if the supply is empty or all the action spaces are full. The last location is the volcano, and these action spaces cannot be blocked. Because the volcano is hot, when a sibling goes there, you'll resolve the action and then return that sibling to your player board. There are 2 action spaces here, the summit and the lava fields. At the summit, you can either look at the top 3 cards from the Volcano Challenge deck, choose one that you wish to keep, and then discard the others in any order. Or you can take the top card from the discard pile. Either way, place it face up next to your nest. You can score a Volcano Challenge at any time by having hatchlings arranged in your nest in the configuration shown based on their favourite foods. So if I were to add this Stegosaurus here, I would now have made this pattern with fish, bone, bug and leaf. The pattern may be flipped or rotated in any orientation, so this would also be valid. When you complete a challenge, flip it face down and score 3 happiness. Finally, the lava fields is a way that you can refresh the market and then gain a new hatchling. Choose any one of the 3 columns in the nursery. Move each visible hatchling in that column to the bottom of its pile and replace it with a new one. And return any siblings who are on any piles to their owners, revealing the top card of that pile. Now optionally take a standard nursery action on one of the 3 newly revealed hatchlings. As we've seen before, pipped hatchlings have no favoured food and cannot be bribed, but they do have the benefit that they can be rotated into any orientation. More powerful still, however, they can be freely rotated at any time during the game, even after you've placed them on your board. So suppose I'd just taken this hatchling from the nursery. In the same action of placing it, I can re-rotate this pipped hatchling like so, making an activity match with my new hatchling. A pipped hatchling can be rotated in this manner at any time, but you can only score an activity match when you are placing a new hatchling or bribing one of your bribable hatchlings. The game end is triggered when one player's nest is filled up with 9 hatchlings. Each other player takes one more turn and then the game is over. Any players with a full nest gain 3 bonus happiness, and each food token still in your nest scores 1. The player with the highest score wins, and in the event of a tie, the player whose final nest has the most activity matches of a single type breaks the tie. If still tied, the youngest player wins, because after all, the oldest player went first. And that's how to play Dinositters.
Check out the project page of Dinositters. We'll put the link in the description below so you can check it out. If you find this video useful, please help us by hitting that like button and subscribe to the Dice Tower if you haven't already done so.
And if you have any questions, comments or feedback, please leave that in the comments section below.
Thanks for watching and see you next time.